Hi Phil, and welcome to the open day at All Stars, which I'm sure you've thoroughly enjoyed. As an owner and a major owner in harness racing and a buyer at the sales, how do you feel the coronavirus episode will affect the game? Will there be long-term issues or not? What do you feel?
Well, Dave, you don't get a perfect storm like we've just gone through, really, without having a few issues. So, but we'll overcome it because there's, I think, the passion in the game, and people that just want to get back out and racing again. I think we will come right. I mean, we do have some big issues between with HRNZ and clubs and obviously TAB and funding and RETA. So, but we've got some pretty good people in there that are working very hard to actually fix and resolve it. And you don't get the perfect storm of COVID. You can't waste a crisis, as I've always said. So we've all been through and traded through these things before in business and other things, and I'm sure we will get out the other side. We're all going to have to accept there's probably going to be a little bit less stake money for the next 18 months, but going forward, we should be able to build back up and refocus the industry on where the real opportunities are, and think a little bit more globally. I think with horses, and you can just see at the moment, even just with the amount of horses that we've had at the trials, and we had a first meeting talked of on the 29th, which is 6 sleeps away tonight and today, and but we could actually be racing in 5 more sleeps. We could end up with Thursday night racing because of the amount of horses that we're seeing at the trials. So fingers crossed.
Do you have a positive attitude to the changes that RETA have made or have planned to make? I mean, they're going to close tracks. There's going to be some refinement of costs. Where do you sit on that?
Well, look, none of us like if it's your own small town track or country track, and you've had racing there for years and decades, and it's not easy. But we're in times where we've got to make these difficult choices. The cost of actually running race meetings at some tracks, the industry just can't afford it. And I focus really from an owner's perspective, and as an owner, we've got to minimise our costs. And when you're transporting horses and people and trainers, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, when we've got perfectly good venues that we could be using actually locally more, I sometimes question why. And I haven't analysed turnovers and what revenues are, but I have asked the question of, when we have bulk funding and payouts of different clubs, it concerns me when some can't even pay out in excess of 70% of that allocation. So, and we can't afford wastage like that. And again, as an owner, I want to minimise my expenses and really maximise our opportunities. And by doing some of the making some of the hard decisions that are having to be made, and they're not nice decisions. And I've talked to a number of people from those country clubs that don't have losing their venues, but they won't lose their club. They can actually go and race at other venues, which isn't going to be easy. But we've all got to have, it's a little bit of a paradigm shift for a lot of us in our thinking and how we operate. So
in some ways we could say then that the coronavirus has been a plus for racing, in that it's possibly accelerated the sort of change that we needed?
Well, possibly, and that's, as I said earlier, is don't waste a crisis in any business that I've ever been involved in over the years. Like when these things happen, that they're not comfortable things to go through, but I think you've got to actually grab a hold of them and actually make the best out of the situation. And we are being challenged. As an industry, we've had no government help for years and years and years, and we got 72 or 73 million there just a couple of weeks ago pre-budget, but really that's the elastoplast. We actually haven't still stopped the bleed. It's stopping the bleeding that we've actually got to do as an industry, and we need to be positive. We've actually got to fight this thing together, otherwise we won't have an industry in 10 years.
What about sales, Phil? Do you feel that falling stakes could affect the sales, or do you think the general buyers will take a positive attitude towards the future?
Well, it's the old thing with sales. It's supply versus demand, and there are less horses being bred every year. It'll be I don't know what New Zealand Bloodstock are anticipating our sales catalogue will look like. Whether we'll still be in the late 300s again this year or not. But I know ourselves. We've got probably 3 or 4 of our regular syndicate members that are probably starting to question, and it's not just COVID or stake. Some of it's just they're getting older and probably they can't travel as far or not as, and starting to ask questions of why they're in the game. Some people have been hugely affected, because we need to remember that this is money that is passive income money. It's money that you spend on racing is normally derived out of other sources. There wouldn't be many people that race horses that actually make money out of racing horses. So a lot of people are actually saying, well, our businesses aren't going so good, our shares aren't going so good, our investments haven't been won't be giving us the returns, or just bottom line, people's companies that they're running that have been highly profitable before, that are, they're having to subsidise their staff and employees. That's going to make it a little bit harder, but I still think that I can't see the sales actually reaching the dollar averages that we have achieved over the last 3 or 4 years. That's going to be a serious challenge, and for breeders it's not going to be easy, but I think we'll rebound again the following year, right?
Yes, and you'd be very pleased to see the running of the size stakes and similar races in the new season, particularly as an owner on the scale you're racing on, the sort of races you aim at. That's a positive for you personally?
Oh, massively positive, Dave. The sales race and size stakes, 2-year-old stuff, it's going to make the 3-year-old program very, very tough this season. It's those horses are up, and getting worked up now. They're going to have to qualify in August, early September, and really we've still got derbies in April and even duels. It's hopefully we've got duels again next year, because today week we really should have been at the harness duels in Cambridge, all having the celebration of the end of the season and having a great time, which as industry participants,
it's a big hit, isn't it? It's a big hit, isn't it, on people such as yourself who have a substantial investment. The knocking of things like the duels is quite a substantial knock, isn't it?
Oh, it's massive. Even just because you rely on that 2 and 3-year-old racing and hopefully earning a little bit of stake money to carry you through the winter. Well, none of us have actually got this year, and I think most of our syndicates this year will be propping themselves up again from their own cash. So yeah. Do
you still got mountains to climb yourself, Phil? I mean, there's not much your syndicates and you haven't won over the years. Something like this doesn't knock your enthusiasm in any way?
Well, probably the fact there's been no racing in New Zealand has probably made our enthusiasm even more. I've never seen Glennis so bouncy this morning as getting out of bed thinking we're going out to see the horses at All Stars. So, we're just busting our buns to get back on track and, look at our what we're doing with racing and even back to trials, those sorts of things. You just love to be involved, and it's just one of those things that we do as a major part of our social fabric with the people we socialise with and what we do. So we've been missing it big time. So
good on you. Thank you very much, Phil, and all the best for the new season.
Yeah, thank you, and all the best to everyone else out there.